All right. Today we are deepening our understanding of how to stop negative thinking and feeling from changing into destructive behaviors. A destructive behavior might be looking like something like you first have a thought and a feeling in reaction to a situation. Let's say you overeat, and your reaction is a thought where you say, I always overeat. You know what? I'm gonna go home and overeat because I always overeat. Because why not? I always overeat. I always fail. So why not just make myself feel better for a little bit and overeat at home? So negative thoughts and feelings lead to negative actions. We want to address the negative thoughts and feelings at the root level so the actions that come from these thoughts are not destructive but wholesome and positive. Now, previously, we did some training on dealing with negative thinking, and there were two skills. One skill was noticing the negative thought, whether it was a body bashing thought or a negative thought. We noticed that thought, and the second skill was reframing. And there were a couple ways to reframe. The first way was to come up with three objective statements that counterbalanced the negative thought. So if you thought to yourself, I am so fat and worthless, you would counterbalance that thought by saying, well, I have a great job, I have a wonderful personality, and yes, it might be true that I am overweight, but I'm more than my body. So that'd be, you counterbalance the negative thought with three more truthful statements that encompass more of who you are as a person, instead of letting your weight or your behavior define you. The other way was asking a question that would undermine the assumption of the thought. So if you thought to yourself, I'm fat and worthless, you would question yourself, is my worth really 100% based on my weight? So by examining your thoughts, you can usually find and discover that the thoughts are lopsided. They're black and white thinking. They're too simplistic. And just by asking a simple question, is it true that all of my worth is based on my weight? Just by asking a simple question, you can reframe the thought. Okay, so thoughts we've kind of talked about. Today we're going another level deeper in talking about emotions. So here's generally how it goes. You have a thought, and then the emotion comes after it. Now, where it gets tricky is because our emotional reactions are taken to be true, and usually, if you look at here, we have a thought, we have an emotional reaction. Usually there's momentum that builds up. So the thought leads to an emotional reaction, and then the emotional reaction builds momentum. Now, generally speaking, there's three types of emotional reactions: fear, guilt, and anger. So, how this might look like is you overeat. Situation, you overeat. You have a negative thought. I always overeat. I always overeat, so I'm going to go home and overeat even more because I feel bad and I just want to feel good, and I always do it anyway, so why not? So that's the thought. The emotional, you can kind of hear by the tone of my voice, but the emotional reaction underneath that is anger. And anger leads to, you guessed it, the actual eating. So we want to focus on the anger today, or the guilt or the fear. So this is dealing with more of the felt sense in your body, how it feels in your body. So we have a thought, it's kind of floating around up here, but very soon afterwards we have a feeling in our body. And the danger about these feelings in our body, this is the key difference between thoughts and these feelings in our body. Thoughts, don't get me wrong, thoughts can be hard to identify, they can be elusive, they can be tricky. But thoughts, if we can pin them down, if we can do a little bit of journaling and question, thoughts, we can quickly realize, wow, that's really lopsided. That's really black and white. That's just not true. But feelings, on the other hand, we believe our feelings, and we take them to be true, and they're harder to change our feelings. So basically, you can change the thought, but unless we're able to make sense of, understand our feelings, and to change our feelings, we're still going to get caught in this momentum that leads to these harmful behaviors. So how do we deal with our feelings? First of all, let's talk about them, but the key technique, the symbol I want you to practice, it's a pretty simple symbol, but all you do is put your hand on your heart. Put your hand on your heart. The reason why I love this symbol, this symbolic gesture, is because it's physical. You have to do it. Gets you out of your crazy train of thought. It connects you to your body. You just feel where your hand connects to your heart. Feel that pressure. So it's physical. It gets you connected to your body. But secondly, this is a universal gesture for love. It's a universal gesture for love. And usually when people put their hand on their heart, there's some, just even a little bit of warmth, a little bit of kindness. And secondly, this hand on your heart, hand on your lung, it symbolizes a feeling of groundedness. You know, if you've ever been anxious, you put your hand on your heart, like, let me catch my breath, like, whew. So there's a lot of symbolic power in this simple gesture right here. And this simple gesture right here kind of explains in a nutshell about how we're going to be handling our emotional reactions. We're going to be seeking groundedness, and we're going to be seeking to speak to ourselves in a loving way. So, there's 3 different types of emotional reactions. So just to recap, you have a thought, I always overeat, then the emotional reaction. The 3 types of emotional reactions are, there's also a 4th type I'll talk about later on, but the 3 main types that I see: fear, guilt, and anger. So in reaction to this, you might say, I always overeat. So the thought is, I always overeat, and then your emotional reaction is like, I always overeat, damn it, I'm gonna go overeat again. Or maybe guilt. You know what, I always overeat. God, I feel so bad, like, man, I suck at this. I can't do this. I'm just gonna go overeat anyways when I get home because I always fail. Or fear. Fear might have a different behavior. It could be tightening. Fear might be, holy crap, I just ate too much. Oh my God, I always do this. I'm gonna skip the next meal. I'm gonna restrict. I'm gonna tighten. Either way, whether you're angry, guilty, or afraid, you're either leading to an extreme behavior of overeating or an extreme behavior of restricting. And none of these emotional reactions are leading you to connect with your body, to pay attention to your hunger or fullness, to meet your emotional needs, to listen to your taste preferences, to process. None of those emotional reactions are leading you in a wholesome direction. So what we do is we put your hand on your heart, and literally put your hand on your heart. And first we breathe. So we feel our body. That's the grounded part of it. We feel our body. Second, this is the kindness, the compassion, the softness, the soothing, the gentleness. I want you to imagine, this is a silly analogy, but when you put your hand on your heart, we need to change the way we speak to ourselves. This is hugely important. Hugely important. We change the way we speak to ourselves. So we get grounded, we get connected to our body. But to practice kindness, we speak softly. We speak softly. We speak gently. Imagine you're talking to a little kid. Or, here's a silly analogy, but soccer versus golf. If you've heard soccer announcers, goal! Goal! Ah! You know, that can sometimes be our inner voice to ourselves. Oh God, you're so ugly. Oh God, you overeat. Oh God, you had too many. You know, it's very loud. But if you think about golf, on the other hand, if you hear the golfer, golf on the other hand is like, oh, he's on the 7th green. He's gonna put it in. Oh, just got a hole in one. Oh, just gotta. You know, it's a way different tone of voice. And so when we put your hand on your heart, we want to shift the tone of voice. And this skill, it complements and goes along with the skill of reframing. So we're sort of, by getting grounded and calm in our body and practicing a softer tone of voice, that's working with the emotions. And then the skill of reframing, we're still reframing. Don't get me wrong, we're still reframing. We're still questioning our assumptions and coming up with alternative ways of thinking, but we're doing so in a nice, calm way. So we're working with both the thoughts and the emotions, okay? Now, I want to circle back to those emotional reactions, and I want to circle back to something I said earlier in this video, which is where we take our emotional reactions to be true, and then they have momentum. So I just want to give you a couple scenarios where it's very easy to take it as true. Let's look at the rebellion one, the anger. So let's say you overeat, and then let's say you start to tighten, actually. So changing that, we're looking at the fear of tightening. This is an example. You overeat, your reaction is, oh God, there's fear. Oh man, I'm gonna gain weight. I better skip the next meal. Let's say that voice is kind of like strict. You're gonna skip the next meal because you overate. Like you gotta be good now. You screwed up, now you gotta be good. Well, your emotional reaction to that might be anger. So these emotional reactions, they can kind of ping pong off of each other and just get out of control. So if you tighten in the beginning, you're going to be good next time. You're going to skip the next meal. It might lead to a feeling of anger. You know what? Screw you. I'm going to have more cake because I can. You know what? Screw you. I'm not going to restrict. So these voices, they can become like a chorus. They can become a cacophony. Ba 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 ba. Like you overate one time, so you feel guilty. Oh man, I feel so bad. And then the anger voice comes in. Why do you always feel bad about yourself? Why don't you do it? Why don't you go on a diet? And then because you yelled at yourself, that like with the tightening, with the fear, then it's like the rebellion. You know what? Don't yell at me. You know what? I'm fine. It could just become this chaotic, confusing mess. And so there's a couple exercises where you simply write down the initial thought. And the initial thought might look like something where you do say to yourself, you catch yourself saying to yourself, you gotta skip the next meal because you overate. You gotta skip the next meal. And if someone said that to you, if someone said that to you, your natural reaction would be to rebel. It would be to rebel. So the key is realizing that all these emotional reactions, they can get very out of hand and they can seem very true. Remember, your emotions are, we believe our emotions, right? We're feeling sad, we believe our emotions. But in Buddhism and in other yogic philosophies, and even in just life in general, remember, you're not the body. All the emotions, they're in your body, but we don't have to believe them. This is very, very tough, very, very tough. But when you're feeling angry, so angry, and rebellion, just tons of rebellion, there is an opportunity. There really is an opportunity. I mean, even when you're feeling so extreme, there is an opportunity. This is a skill. You have to practice this. There is an opportunity to hold on there, cowboy. Like, let's not believe these emotional stories that we're telling ourselves. We've been telling these stories to ourselves for years, but are they helpful? They might seem true, but are they helpful? The answer is usually no. So how do you gain the presence of mind to, well, you put your hand on your heart and you practice self-care. Practice self-care. In those dark, dark moments where it's so intense, there's reactions upon reactions and different voices speaking to you. All you have to remember, right here, boom. And then remember that calm voice. Easy there, easy there. Remember, If you want to have more food, you can have more food. This is not what this is about. This is not stopping you from eating. So remember, if you really want more food, you can have more food. But how's it going to make you feel? Are you already full right now? Would eating more food actually make you feel better? I don't know. This is for you to decide in the moment. It's possible you underate and you're legitimately hungry. Are you hungry? You know, it's not that so this is how you get out of it. Usually these voices and reactions, there's a sense of hopelessness. Like, no matter what happens, your needs aren't going to get met. No matter what happens, you're going to be left disappointed. And that's not the case here. When you put your hand on your heart and you listen to your body and you give yourself permission to give your body what it needs, whether it's emotional self-care or physical food, your needs get met. There is a way out of this madness. And it's by calming down, listening to your body, and seeing what it actually needs. And that calm voice, soothing. Remember the golf commentators. Soothing. Hole in one. Oh yeah, he just got a hole in one. Oh my God. And then keep practicing the skill of reframing. So that's all we have today. And go ahead, go forth, and be well. Great.